buy the holes already built. This one's called Makara. We literally start with an empty hull, and this one is a spark ignition, what we call a spark ignition class. It's probably one of the biggest that you'll see in the Ombre racing. It handles the sea conditions much better than the smaller ones. It's also reliable because of the petrol ignition that we use. It's basically a converted strimmer engine, but it's made specifically for these. To start with, as I say, we get it as a bare hull. We find a position for the engine, for the radio gear and the fuel, aiming to get an even balance. The centre of gravity, which will make the boat run as far to the back as possible. That's where we get the speed from, as little as the boat in the water as we can deal with. As I say, that's done by keeping the CFG back. It's a balancing game. We have to move stuff around. We very rarely get it right first time. The strut drive on the back for the propeller is adjustable on these, so we can alter the angle and the height the propeller is in the water. Again, that way we can adjust the ride height, keep the boat on the top of the water rather than pushing it.
This is all part of the tuning, is it?
It is all part of the tuning,
and
yeah.
Do you have to tune it for different types of wave and wind conditions?
Oh, yes, definitely, yeah. We actually, up the front of us, you won't be able to see it, but up the front I've got a bottle. It's basically a Coca-Cola bottle that's got water in it, and depending on the sea conditions, I'll add a bit of water, I'll take a bit of water out. If it's very, very flat, we take all the water out, and we have the boat literally skipping on the back of the boat as fast as it can go, because the only thing that's in the water is the propeller. And the rudder, obviously, for the steering. If it's very choppy, then we tend to wake the front a bit so we can keep the boat in the water and it doesn't take off.
What speeds will these reach up to?
This one, currently, it's been GPS to 50 miles an hour.
50 miles an hour on the water?
That's on a lake. Sometimes, if it's a bit choppier, they'll go a bit faster. And they actually like a bit of chop so they can break free of the surface.
Does it make any difference whether you're racing in salt water or fresh water?
Not that I've noticed. I've never noticed any difference at all, other than the cleaning that goes into it afterwards. There's all the aluminium parts. The salt water, really gets in and eats them away.
This is all in the cooling, isn't it? Is water cooled or take from the tank?
It is, yeah. It's water cooled from the rudder. There's two holes in the bottom of the rudder, which obviously at speed force a lot of water up around the engine. There's a few parts that I've added to help with cooling on the intake. The cooler air going into the engine means a higher performance.
Yes.
The exhaust is fully lagged to try and keep the heat in the exhaust, because the hotter exhaust exits the exhaust gases faster, and means we can keep cooler air into the engine in the boat as well. So there's lots of little things we do.
Sounds very technical. Do you have it's attuned?
It is a specific length, yeah. The exhaust is tuned to a specific length from the spark plug to the widest point of the cone. It's called the two-stroke supercharging effect. You get a sound resonance from the exhaust that bounces fuel back into the engine. Waste fuel that's been pushed past into the exhaust port is bounced back in at the last minute to get as much fuel into the engine as we possibly can to get as bigger bang and the most power we can possibly get.
Yeah, it does sound very, very technical, but takes a lot of tuning and getting going, I would think.
Yes, it does, yeah.
Is there any special coverings you use on here?
Well, I use 2-pack car paint on this. A friend of mine has got his own car body shop. He's very kind, lets me go in and respray all my boats in there, so you tend to find most of my boats are car colours, because it's the hardest wearing paint you can get, basically.
Is the fuel or the exhaust from the fuel affect the surface at all?
Not on this. If you were to use an aerosol can, then this type of paint would take that. This type of petrol would take that paint straight off, but not car paint.
Right. Okay, I notice inside you have some infamous foam lagging. Now we've used that for making the children's airboats, and I'm sure you've got some other discrete use for that.
It's really if the inevitable happens and we do turn the boat over, obviously we want it to float. So it's literally there to make the boat float. It's to just give us enough buoyancy we can still see it afterwards.
So when it's filled up with water, if you ever get it filled, it shouldn't fill up with water.
Hopefully
but if
not.
you have an accident, it will not sink.
Just enough that we can reach it. That's the idea anyway.